Hello everyone, and welcome to our session about the UI5 tooling. We already gave this session even a few times at UI5Con because we think this is very important for everyone to know how the tooling works. But not only for UI5ers, most of them know, but there are always new developers into UI5Con, so therefore it's important to bring this to UI5Con. But it's also important for anybody else that wants to start with UI5. And that could be anybody coming from ABAP background, maybe functional background, or just if you want to understand better how you should start developing UI5 applications. And one of the important things even experienced developers are struggling with, although they know how it works, is connecting it with libraries and components. Because components and libraries give you the possibility to reuse things and to put things in libraries like SAP does, and in components to make it more reusable and more generic. Also, for working in teams or a bigger project, components might become very important. If you put everything in one big component, it works fine, but the component might grow, it might be difficult to work with multiple people on, and therefore, putting different in separate layers in separate places might be very helpful to make a scalable UI5 application. And there the tooling comes in. And a fool with a tool is still a fool. It's important to understand how the tooling works, how to connect those components and libraries. It's not focusing on developments, it's focusing on the tooling, because tooling is the way to connect it in your local development. And once deployed, the system makes a connection. But you don't want to always have to deploy your component before you test it. You want to be able to test everything locally. I've been involved in projects when at a time that there was no good support from the UI5 tooling, that we always had to deploy, for example. And I can really tell you it's really painful when you have to do this. So understanding the tooling and how you can benefit from it, working in bigger projects, working with components and libraries, is really helpful. But of course, it would not be SAP if it's very difficult not to understand the tooling, but find the right tooling. And of course, we have the UI5 tooling. It makes sense. This is the foundation. Everything falls and comes down to the UI5 tooling. And all the other things are built on top of it. For example, the Fiori tooling, you could basically see it as a layer on top of the UI5 tooling. Behind it, we are still using the UI5 tooling. But besides the Fiori tooling, we also have UI5 community plugins. And also that is running on the UI5 tooling. Basically, Fiori tooling and UI5 community plugins are plugins on top of the UI5 tooling. It's a way to extend the UI5 tooling with additional functionalities, additional features to make it work to your needs. Yeah.
I just realized something. UI5 tooling is UI5 CLI now. So if you hear now UI5 tooling, we mean UI5 CLI. You know, SAP really likes to rename things. Now UI5 team also started to rename things. So UI5 tooling, aka UI5 CLI.
Yeah, thanks, Marian. I forgot to mention that they posted, I think, this week on LinkedIn. I was thinking to mention it, but forgot it. Indeed, it's UI5 CLI, which makes more sense because in the end, it's the CLI tooling. And to come back, it's not on purpose. It's on purpose that I draw it like this because it makes us look a bit like Mickey Mouse. Just joking here. Now, if you want to compare the tooling, we have tooling for Fiori tooling, which is basically on NPM in the NPM package at SAP UX UI5 tooling. But we also have community plugins, and they are on a central GitHub repository. And this is where it becomes complicated because you have tooling from Fiori and tooling from UI5 that basically do the same thing. We have app reload from Fiori. We have live reload in the UI5 community. It does the same thing. We have the proxy, the Fiori tools proxy, and we have the simple proxy. Here, the proxy for Fiori tooling is way more powerful than the simple proxy, but maybe the simple proxy is good enough for you. They both have serve static, which again exactly does the same thing. We have Fiori tools preview, and therefore we do not have anything in the UI5 community, but we just use UI5 Serve, and it does the same thing. For deploying, there is deploy to ABAP. Although this is actually a different plugin, they integrated it into the Fiori tooling. We have also older packages, plugins, and NetWeaver ABAP deployer. But yeah, here I would suggest to always use a deploy to ABAP because it's really very well integrated into your backend system. But in the community plugins, we also have other ones like UI5 Tooling modules. And this one is interesting, and we will also show it when you start using third-party libraries. And yeah, that's something we do not have in the Fiori tooling. And then when you go, in general, to conclude, Fiori tooling gives you everything you need to do a Fiori application. But as soon as it becomes more advanced, like using third-party libraries or working with components, it might be a bit too limited. Like, for example, integration with BTP using the UI5 tooling app router might help you. Therefore, we do not have something in the Fiori tooling. And if you want to have a list of all those plugins for the Fiori tooling, you can find them on NPM here. And you see in this package, you have different middlewares for UI5, one for the application reload, one for the proxy, and it's all bundled in the same NPM package. Yeah, you can scroll down, you see there will be like the serve static is here, and there are other things as well, but I mainly listed the most important ones. One more thing I would like to mention is, looks like one package, but behind the scene, if you look, for example, here in NPM SEP UX, you will see there are many more I18N, telemetry, BTP utils. They have more packages. Some of them they use behind the scene. Some of them are used for other purposes, but SAP is putting more and more packages available on NPM. Now, if I go back to the presentation, there is also the UI5 community plugins. And here we have a Git hub, a community GitHub, where we have a list of all those middlewares or tasks, or at least plugins that are available. And there are quite a list that can be useful in some cases.
Fiori tools is also on GitHub as well. It's also just, I think most of it is right now open source. Actually, like all those you just see here, they are open source definitely. And they have a long list of open source UI5 tooling extensions here as well.
Yeah, they are more and more bringing everything open source, which is nice, which could help us to learn, maybe merge them together, benefit from each other. So yeah, in general, to conclude, we have the Fiori tooling plugins, we have UI5 community plugins. Mainly if you use a Fiori generator, you will end up with a Fiori tooling, but you might need sometimes a community plugin like the tooling modules. Or if you prefer to use the UI5 middlewares, because I don't know, for community support, it can be useful. It really depends. But Fiori tooling is more complete, while UI5 community plugins is more advanced. That's how I summarize it. I don't know, Marian, how you would see it. Maybe you see it differently. You're on mute.
Yeah, it really just depends how you use it. Like, I think mainly how I do it is if I work more with Fiori elements, I use mainly Fiori tooling. And if I start with a freestyle app, usually use the easy UI5 generator, what I'm going to show in a second. And then it comes default by those UI5 community plugins, so I usually use them. So it's really, when I look back, it's really Fiori elements, Fiori tooling, and UI5 freestyle. It's more UI5 tooling and UI5 CLI. I think mostly I do that switching between those style of apps.
And that's because freestyle is mostly often more advanced. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
And then to come to the next thing is generators. there are mainly two generators. Fiori Tooling has a generator, and then we have Easy UI5. Now I put some things next to each other to compare them on usability and so on. First of all, the Fiori Tooling is not only CLI, but also offers a UI, which is in Easy UI5 different. But if you have a special request or you want to have a change request, for Easy UI5 you can just make a GitHub pull request. You can do the changes yourself and make this pull request. While for the Fiori Tooling it might be more difficult, although it's now also, is it also on GitHub in the meantime?
Good question. I think so.
If it's part of the open source, then it would also be possible with a pull request, but I'm not sure if they will just accept it. It will be more.
There are more stakeholders there, definitely, than in Easy UI5. It's more difficult to change something.
Yeah, exactly. So license for Fiori Tooling, it's SAP, partly open source, but still open source in the sense you cannot just do a pull request and they will approve it. While Easy UI5, it's really community driven. For the Fiori Tooling, if you generate an app, you need to look at the UI5 version. You can always select it, but if you do not select it, your Fiori Tooling will take the latest SAP release, so officially a stable release. While Easy UI5 will really give you the latest UI5 version. Not a nightly build, but at least the latest that they have to offer. They both have TypeScript support. For Fiori Elements, as Marian already mentioned, then you really go to the Fiori Tooling. It's not supported in Easy UI5. Maybe it will come because they are open sourcing it, so we could integrate it in Easy UI5 as well. Integration with data sources. Easy UI5 has this simplistic possibility to connect with an OData service, but not as advanced like with the Fiori Tooling. In Fiori Tooling, you can really select your ABAP system. You can say it's deployed for ABAP or Cloud Foundry, give your Cloud Foundry credentials or your ABAP system configuration. It goes further than just providing an OData service. But then again, if you work with libraries, there is no generator for a library in the Fiori Tooling, while we have this in Easy UI5. Same for controls, not in Fiori Tooling, in Easy UI5. And that's when it becomes more advanced, really UI5 coding level, then we have to go to Easy UI5. Deployment support, it's limited in Easy UI5, while we have full support in the Fiori Tooling for BTP and ABAP. One last thing is, for Easy UI5, you can create your own generator. I once was missing like a generator master detail. I just made it, made a pull request to Easy UI5, and it's now in there. And this is definitely not possible at the moment with Fiori Tooling. So in general, at the moment, if you're really going in deep dive with UI5, you will not be able to use one of them. You will need at least both. Or you go for the Easy UI5 without the integration of BTP and the data sources. But if you really want to have a nice integration with a CAP application or with your Cloud Foundry on BTP, and you want to have a library support, then you will need both. And so Fiori Tooling again is for the starting point for the basics, but going advanced into UI5, we end up with Easy UI5. And again, Marian, I will ask the question to you. Do you see this the same way, or do you have other insights as well?
Again, as I said, it's really this difference between working with Fiori elements and working with freestyle applications. And it's the same here, but it's interchangeable. Like you showed the deploy to ABAP extension. Obviously, I use it for both because it's, for me, it's the default standard for using. So it's not like I focus on that part and only use that part. I can use in the freestyle apps the Fiori tools extension as well. So it's really depends how you work, how you use it, what your requirements are. It's not like one or the other. Like that's a good thing about it. You can use both at the same time. So
thanks, Marian. So now this was the introduction, and during UI5Con, I had the project generated, but here today, Marian said he would be able to generate all of the different things. He will generate us 2 applications, one with Easy UI5, one with the Fiori Tooling. He will generate a component, he will generate a library and a control, and connect all of those things together. And yeah, he said he would be able to do it in 10 minutes or 20 minutes.
Like first make it work at all and then see what kind of time I actually take for. So seems like a lot of work, but I want to show you that it's actually not that complicated if you know all the steps, because we can use UI5 CLI and Fiori Tooling to generate most of it, I would say. So let's just show you the architecture, what I would like to achieve. So we have few assets, we have an app and we have a cup backend. Obviously, you don't really have a cup generator, so I'll just use the cup hire bookshop sample to have a OData sample. I will then use that OData service for the Fiori tools generation, so we can actually show you how that works. I will use both generators, so Fiori tool generator, easy WAF generator, and then it will create assets to integrate into the apps like the library controlling component. So let's start. New terminal. To connect all of that, I would like to use the npm workspaces. So first, just create a package JSON and then a packages folder. So everything I will create will be in there. And to use workspaces, I can just use that here. So everything in workspaces is more or less connected, uses the same dependencies, and it's just easier to integrate all the apps and assets in together. All right, then I will start with the cup. As I said, it's the cup hire bookshop sample. So let's go in the packages folder, and I will just git clone the bookshop sample and call it cup. And as you see here, it's just really simple. The bookshop sample, I will remove the access control just to make my life a little bit easier here. And then go to the cup folder, npm run watch, and make it available for me. So really simple example, like authors, just a few data in there, nothing really special. So we have our cup backend. And now let's start with generating our apps. As Wouter said, we have the easy UI5 generator, and with that, it's based on UMan. So UMan is kind of a framework to have like a question answer generation, and it's just really easier to ask some questions and then based on that answers generate a project, for example. So in terminal, you just use yo, and then it shows you the generator you have available in the system. I already installed the easy UI5 generator, and because I installed the Fiori tools generator as well, it's available here as well. And adaption project is also a generator. But we start with the easy UI5 generator, and when I start that, I have a list of options. Like Wouter said, we have not just the app generation, but like controls and libraries. And as you can see, many, many more, like the Fiori Launchpad plugin and VDR5. We can add easily VDR5 to any project here. And because we use the latest technologies, obviously we use the TypeScript app. So it checks like the sample here as well is based in GitHub. So we'll check GitHub, is there a new version, and may download it. But we have the latest version, so that was a bit quicker. We use a defined namespace just to make my life easier when we'll connect it later. Then we can choose between OpenUI5, SubUI5. It will check the latest version. Latest version is 140, so we'll suggest that. So we just press enter. Sure. And new directory. And that's where I realize I'm in the wrong folder. So I need to go there. And now I can show you how to directly go to the generator. So you can just easy UI5 and go directly to the TypeScript app generator if I just press enter the details in the terminal. And the same thing. We already know that. Enter, create new directory. Yes. Don't need Git, I already have that. And now he already created the sample. Go to packages. So we can already see the easy UI5 app. He will now run npm install. Will add VDR5 to that as well. So it's a really simple TypeScript application. Like here's some controller or a base control, some useful methods in there. Just a plain view with a little bit of content. So when the install is ready, we can just go into the folder and start the app to show you. So let's go to the app. Really simple app. So with the namespace here, it'll pop up. Really, really simple. So especially if you want to create a freestyle application, it's really good to start with something that simple, but you already have everything you need. Like the transpile is here, live reload is here. As I said, VDR5 is already installed. So everything you need to start. Now let's create the Fiori tools application. As you saw here, if I start the human generator, I have SAP Fiori as well. But one of the big advantages for the Fiori tooling generator is obviously we have a UI for that. So we can generate the application generator directly from the UI and go through here. So you have your template selection first, so basically more or less what we did at the beginning. So we have your basic custom page list report, all the Fiori elements, templates you know. To compare it better to the easy UI5 generator, want to use the freestyle, so the basic sample, our OData or app server is running locally, so we use the admin service. Just view, call it Fiori tools, so we actually know what it is, and it should be in the package folder. So there's already SAP UI5 140. To better compare it, also use TypeScript, and everything else is no. Yeah. Let's finish, and now it is already generated, and you can see here on the top bottom left, it's also installing the dependencies here. So now we can actually compare it a little bit better. Let's go to the web app folder. Here it's pretty similar. We have two controllers, both empty. The view is a bit, I think, it's really just an empty page view. So nothing special there. What is more interesting, because we named the backend, like the CAP server in the manifest, you can see here it's defined as a data source. So you can even, without defining the data source, you can start immediately requesting the data from there. Also, because we use the Fiori tools generator, if you go to the UI5 memo, you see more of the tools Wouter already mentioned, like the Fiori tools proxy, Fiori tools app reload, or the Fiori tools preview. And because they don't really have a transpile Fiori tools, they use the UI5 tooling here as well. But you can see here the proxy is used to get the UI5 libraries directly from the UI5.com domain, and here for the backend proxy to go to the localhost 404, so the CAP instance that's running here. So that's basically the main differences. Obviously, Fiori tools, they use preferably their own custom extensions there. So we have our two apps. Let's go to the architecture diagram. We have the CAP backend. We have our two apps generated. Now we want to generate those reusable assets. And Unfortunately, there's not yet a component generator in there. I actually thought about creating a component generator just for this talk. It was like, I don't have time for that. Just use a simple, really simple sample. I also put it on GitHub, so if you want to use that one, just go for it. Let's go in the packages folder, git clone the component. We have a brief look in there. Component is more or less a UI5 app, so they're really similar. So it looks like a UI5 app. You have a view, a CSS, translation files, controller. So it's really similar. So that's kind of powerful component compared to like a more simple control. And what it does, it really just shows a simple method strip in there. So if we connect it later, that should be visible.
Can always just generate a normal app and use it as a component. That's what I mostly do.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because it's actually the same. So if you need kind of a template for a library, a component, just generate one with a TS app generator from UI5. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we have a component. It's also TypeScript here. And then we get generate our control. Control. For that, we have to just create a folder called control, and here we can now call our UI5 generator again, and then you see from their list is a control generator. So nothing much to choose from here, apart from the namespace. And now the same thing, generated all the controls, and now running npm install. So again, it's really just a basic start for you to actually create a control. So here's the renderer in there, and currently not much is happening. We'll add something later to that. And because I had some problems, I will remove that one here. So last one is the library. Again, if we go to UI5, you have a library generator here, but you also have a TypeScript library. So obviously, I will use that one and use my namespace I predefined. I can choose the framework, use OpenUI5, omit the namespace in the source folder, new directory. Am I in the wrong one? Yes, in the wrong one again. Let's go to packages folder, TS library. Library, UI5, 140. Yes, yes, yes. No, don't need to analyze GitHub because I have a global GitHub already, not GitHub, Git repository already initiated here. Same thing, he created already a library. And you have everything you need. Transpiling, and here you have a pretty simple sample control in there. So here's the renderer, just generating some text. We'll see that in a second, how that actually looks like in the app. So we have everything we need, I think. Generated app, Fury 2 generated app, component, control, library, cup running. Now I will connect everything. I will just connect it to the easy UI5 generated app just to make my life a little bit easier, but it would be exactly the same for the Fury Tools generated app. So let's close that one, and we'll start with the connecting the library. Because we're using npm workspaces, now we can use the feature of npm workspaces to use as the assets as dependencies, and then we connect everything like that. So we can use dependencies, and now he wants to generate everything So if our dependencies here, we want to connect the library, and the library has a package JSON, and the package JSON name is our namespace we defined earlier. So with that, we can go here. Find the name of the package JSON, and with that little star, we don't get that from the public npm JS repository, but we say please get that from our own local npm workspace. So now we can use npm install, and now the library is available for our easy UI5 application. And the library is supported by the UI5 CLI, so we can use the UI5 CLI to integrate that in our UI5 application. So because it's a TypeScript library, we have to add it to our TypeScript here as well. So it's already suggesting the correct namespace here in the types. Plus, we have to go to path and define our library as well. So then the UI5 CLI automatically transpiles the library here as well. So we have to define the library in our manifest. So there are already some standard libraries here. We can add it here as well. And now we can use it in our app. So let's go to our main view. First, we have to define the namespace. So that's the library namespace defined here. Go to our content. I think in here. Yeah, let's put it in here. So that's the library defined here. That's the example control in our library, which has the parameter text. So that text should be displayed now when we start the app, hopefully. So let's go to our app, npm start. And doesn't work. Yes, doesn't work. Great. Oh, probably. Oh, yeah. Bit too far down. Let's put it there. There we go. Reloads. There we go. That's the example control. So hello world, that's the text I just defined in the XML view. So we have our library. Next thing is let's put the control here as well. Say procedure control package JSON. So that's the name we want to use. UI5 package JSON. Put it down here. So npm install. That's it. Now we can use it in our view. Same thing, define the control namespace up here in the additional content. So control. So that's the namespace in the control. Control is the name of our control. A little bit too much control here, but hopefully it's not too confusing. Let's start the app again. And nothing is happening because we have nothing in our control. So when we generated the control, nothing is here. So two divs, but no text in there. So let's add some text. So like ORM text. There we go. Go back. Already reloaded in here. So a text. Perfect. So we have library, control. Now the component is missing. Let's do the component. Same procedure again. We want to use the package JSON name. Oh no, it's a control. Component. Yeah, so it's a little bit more simple here. It's just controls called component correctly. And now, unfortunately, that is not supported by the UI5 CLI, at least not yet. So we need another custom extension for that. It's called UI5 middleware UI5. And with that, we can basically, as the name already indicates, stream one UI5 app to another UI5 app. So let's just install that. Now we have to add that to our UI5 YAML. So now it's checking if in the dependencies is a UI5 application and automatically picks up. So now we can go to our manifest and define the component so we can use it in our view. So it's under libs. Maybe we haven't used that before, but it's possible to add here components and then use just a namespace, same like the libraries. And then use component usages. And under component usages, you can define names of components you want to use. So now we can use component example in our as a name and use it in our application to call that component. And just here's our namespace defined again, what kind of component we want to use. Now we can actually use it in our view. We don't have to define the namespace because that's a special UI5 control we call it with. So that's the most simple to actually call that. So it's a component container. So in that container is the UI5 application. And with the parameter usage, you define the name, what we defined in the manifest JSON. So that's the name we want to use. And that's used here. So because that's a little bit too simple, we need some more parameters. We use that one. So that's just ID, how wide it is, propagate model. So you can actually use the UI5 models from the outer UI5 application in the inner UI5 application and call it async true, so it doesn't really hold up our application. So let's start again. Reload. There you go. That's the method strip from our component. Simple as that. So if we go to our, is it? There we go. Into our architecture, we are pretty much done. So everything is connected by our UI5 CLI, UI5 middleware, and it's really that good connected that we actually can change anything in the library component control, and it's automatically in the easy UI5 generated app. So we don't have to compile or watch anything in the libraries or the component. So we can change, for example, library in the render, just library text, whatever. And then because it's connected by UI5 CLI, it's automatically reloaded and you can see the text here. The same with the control, it's connected by UI5 CLI. So overflow should reload. Yeah, it's reloaded. That's the text here. The only thing it's not automatically reloaded is the component. So we can change the text here, 987. So again, unfortunately not automatically reloaded, but if I reload, text is here. Isn't that great, Wouter? So I actually didn't stop the time, sorry. Did you stop?
Thank you, Marian. I think without coming back to this overview, you did it in less than 20 minutes. I think if you do it one more time, you do it in 10 minutes.
It was too quick, right?
Yeah, it's
Hopefully the
perfect
people
timing.
could follow.
Yeah, it's
Hopefully the
perfect
people
timing.
could follow.
So thank you, Marian. So Marian created two projects, one with Easy UI5, one with the Fiori tooling. He created a library and a component and even a control and connected it all in the easy UI5 application. Thank you very much, Marian. So the next step, I'm not going to change anything of this, but if you create a new application, like Marian just did, this is the way to do it. Basically, Marian is using the plugins, the tooling, and basically behind the scene, it's all using NPM standards by using the dependencies. The dependencies are key here. So the dependencies allow you to connect the components inside the application, the library, and the control. But of course, it could be that you're working on older applications that do not have all those, that are not using yet those plugins, or that you need to configure, or there are other reasons that you're using maybe the tooling in a different way, that you're maybe using the CDN server and not using the proxy or whatsoever. There could be other reasons that the configuration is different, and maybe you do not have the possibility to change the configuration, but it would be helpful to understand how the tooling works. And one of the things that, again, how Marian showed it, that's the way forward. But it could be that you're using the libraries in a different way, that you're not using NPM for which reason soever. And then, for example, an alternative could be the Fiori tools serve static. And I will show you this in the code. But before I change something, I will zoom in a little bit. I will show you how the application works. Now I just took over from Marian. The only thing is I will continue on the Fiori tooling app because, yeah, then we show both, of course, but also the easy UI5, it's a bit more advanced. Well, if you start from scratch, you might start with the Fiori tooling. So I'm just going to continue from here, but it's the same setup within the Fiori tooling, of course. Just before I change anything, I will run it to show you how it looks like, that I didn't do anything before it. So it's starting, give it a second, and it will start up everything. So it will show me in the sandbox launch, but it shows me the application. The only thing I noticed is that the control from the library is not coming through, the CSS is not coming through, but let's ignore that for now. Besides that, everything is, the control from the library is loaded, the control is loaded, and the component is loaded. Now, to take it back to what I said, now it's running using NPM packages. If I look into the package JSON, we have here the dependencies. The same that Marian showed in the easy UI5 application, it's also here in the Fiori application. There is also another one, but that's for one of the next steps. But you see here the library, the component, and the control. Now, in the UI5 YAML, if we disable UI5 middleware, UI5 middleware, UI5 middleware, you will see that I'm going to break it, because this is needed to load the component. And I will also remove, just to show you the dependencies, I will remove the dependency to the library, and I will remove the dependency to the components. So we're not using NPM at all anymore for those. I can also remove this one, but I'm not going to touch it for now. I just want to show you that it will be broken. Because it might be for some reason that you're not using NPM dependencies. You don't want to load it or whatsoever, or you want to load it from the server. You see, it gives me an error. Perfectly normal, because if I open debugging tools, I can refresh it. You will see it will try to, my breakpoints, I need to disable them. But you will see from the network trace, it tries to load. If I open the application, it tries to load the component, it tries to load the library, and it's failing, which make perfectly sense. Another way, instead of using NPM, would be to use serve static. And here I can just use, I will do it for the component and the library and then explain it. So for the component, we just have to say for resources, by default, UI5 will generate a path based on a namespace and put /resources before it. And then we can make like a redirect to the current folder component dist. And one of the special things and nice things about UI5 middleware UI5, it also does a TypeScript compilation. So now, because I'm not using that, I need to build a component, which I did beforehand, that there is a this folder and to run the JavaScript files. But that's something that does UI5 middleware UI5 does behind the scene. Now, by switching to serve static, that's not happening. So I need to make the build manually, and then I can connect it with the component. So by default, it will go to the namespace, but resources in front of it, and I will forward it to one folder up, and then the component, and then this folder. And I do the same for the library. Library will also be resolved with the namespace as a path, and with resources as prefix. And again, I say one level up, library, and in the library we have the this folder. Also here we need to do the build. We have resources, the full path, and then it will be able to find it. Going to save this. And I will also put this in comments. Otherwise, it will forward all of the requests to ui5.sap.com, and that's something we don't want. But if we do this, we also need to check the index. The index is going to resource. I'm a step too early. I will leave this for now and start running it again. Okay, give it some time. It will start it again. The new configuration, and it will open a new browser window. It goes to the application, and we see the UI5 control from the library. We see the control, which was already there, and we see the component. Now, yeah, I confused you maybe a bit. This is still needed. If we use the Fiori tooling and we use serve static, this works together, works fine. But removing it is we need to remove it for the next step. But let me come back to this one. So basically what we've done now, we just use serve static, and we did a redirect from the path generated by the UI5 framework to our own local component. And this setup allows us to not just use a local folder, but also maybe the library or the component on your system. And then this might be interesting, more interesting than using NPM dependencies, for example. Now that's one approach. It requires you to build always, but it also gives you the possibility to use a remote library or a remote component. Another option is to use a CDN. And for the CDN, I will just show you. I created a new index CDN file.html, and here we have the full path. And this, normally you can configure the version and so on, but sometimes this is being used to set a fixed version like 140, like this, or just change the path where it's coming from. Anyway, it might be interesting. You see it sometimes in older applications that they are using the CDN. But then for the component, the library, and the control, it will go also to UI5. And to change this, we need to provide a change the path for those namespaces. So for the component, we need to forward it to a different path. Same for the library, same for the control. And then in the UI5.yaml file, we go again, make it a redirect for those paths to the local project, to the local component, to the local library, to the local control. And in this case, we will also disable the UI5 configuration because it's not needed. And we are using the CDN. CDN will not go through the proxy, and then we will be able to resolve this. So I will run this again. Give it again some time to start up. It will read the new configuration and open a new window. Okay. Yes, of course, this is not working because I removed the proxy. I need to navigate to the index CDN HTML. And now this is loading from the CDN with the control from the library, the control from the control folder itself, and the component. By just adding, again, here the configuration, the CDN configuration, and removing the UI5 proxy. So to summarize it back, we changed the CDN, the index, we changed the UI5.com YAML file, and we created an index.cds. Not do the configuration of resource routes. By default, it will use /resources and go to ui5.sub.com, and there we will not be able to find our library or our components or our control. So therefore, we need to change the path. To sum it up, so Marian showed you the way forward using npm packages and dependencies. I also showed you the alternative using serve static, with the Fiori tooling and with the CDN. So depending on your setup, one of them can be used. Of course, the npm packages and dependencies is the way forward.
Just you said you showed serve static with locals. When you deploy your library or your component to the, for example, S4 system, it's static there as well, so it can serve the library and component from your S4 system as well. So you can reference not just the local component or library, you can reference the remote library from your S4 system. So you don't even need that on your local PC if you want to reuse it for a application you want to include in it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's also an interesting option and good to know that we have this available with the tooling, but it's mainly about configuration.
Yeah.
You could even and now we're going out of our script, but nevertheless, you could have like different UI5.yaml files, one for remote connection, UI5 remote, UI5 local. So you can run it in different ways depending on what's your preference. So the next thing is including third-party libraries. But of course, that's also something that will happen. There is a lot of libraries outside that could be useful. And I will show you just like the decimal library, just as an example, but it could work with any library from NPM. First of all, you need to install UI5 tooling modules, which I already did. Configure the middleware, install the decimals.js, and then you can use it. I've already done this. So in the package.json, you see here decimals. We have also installed the UI5 tooling modules in the UI5 YAML file. I put here this one back. So this will be used to load the dependencies with the libraries if we load them. And then in the component, we should be able to use decimals. And I put here an example. Now, to be honest, I'm a bit confused if it will work like this, but we'll figure it out on the fly. Normally, it works with NPM. But let's see if it's able to resolve it or not. When I was testing, this was working, so it should work now as well. Of course, we disabled in the proxy this part, so I need to put it back if I go through the launchpad. We'll also have to put back the middleware. The serve static can stay because it will not be used. So I start it again. Yeah, it's starting. Voila. And I have my dialog with my decimals. look back what I've put in, because it was maybe a little bit too fast, I'm using the decimal library in 2 different ways. It's 2 times the same, but in a different format. And then I make the comparison using this library to show in a message box if it's equal or not. That's the simple example, but just to show you how to use libraries. And because it works with NPM dependencies, that's why it's important to put back the UI5 middleware UI5. You put back this one because we're testing it in the Launchpad, the Launchpad sandbox, and because we're using here the dependencies. So, as I mentioned, it works only for NPM setup. If you would use serve static, you might need to redirect to the node modules, and this might make things complicated. Additionally, so that was it for connecting components, libraries, and controls in different ways, also connecting third-party libraries. The next thing, and that's also important and often forgotten in sessions, it's about deploying. We can configure an application to deploy to BTP and deploy to ABAP. Different configuration, different files, and we don't have an example yet, but we might be able to put it in. There is another repository where we have an example ready. So at UI5 so here we have like 2 files in the sample. One is for deploying to ABAP, and that uses the tooling transpile task. So it transpiles before deploying, and then the deploy to ABAP, where you can provide the target system, you can provide the name of the repository, your BSP, the package, and your transport. Now, when you deploy to Cloud Foundry, there is more in the picture. We have the zipper because it makes a zip, which is in the end we put in an MTA file, an MTAR file, and therefore it's important that we have like this relative pass-through. In the past, we had like web ID extension tasks, which updates the manifest. And now we can just do it in the zipper itself. And what it does, if you look in your web application, if you connect it to an OData service, if you work locally or in Business Application Studio, we always need the / here in the beginning. But and we also need when you deploy to ABAP. But as soon as you deploy to Cloud Foundry, we need to remove this /. It's very important to make the deploy work and to make the application work. So therefore, we need to enable this. And basically, the zipper, that's doing the trick. Now, with Cloud Foundry, we have additional configurations, like we have an XS app that you need to configure, where you also need to provide the destination using the HTML5 app repository. We have an XS security file. We have an MTA file, which you need to configure, and you can configure it using a standalone app router or a managed app router. Here we use a managed app router. So yeah, we're not going to too many details. We just want to share with you that there is different configuration needed for BTP. There is different configuration needed to deploy to ABAP, but you can have a look here, and yeah, this should help you to get started. If you use a Fiori generator, this will be generated for you. And with this, yeah, one more thing. In the package.json, we have different scripts to run and deploy to ABAP. You see here deploy MTA, that's basically deploying to BTP. But of course, we first need to build the MTA, and therefore we have the build script. Behind the scene, the MTA will run the build Cloud Foundry, which will use the UI5 deploy Cloud Foundry. For ABAP, it will just build it, use the Fiori deploy command with the configuration UI5 deploy ABAP. So they use different files and different actions will happen. But I think that's the most important part you need to know about deploying to ABAP or Cloud Foundry. Normally with the Fiori generator, it's generated for you, or you can have a look at our repository. We will also add it in this one, but you should be able to find the examples. And with that, yeah, I would like to wrap it up. some tips and tricks we want to share with you. The CDN, only use it when necessary. I see it's being used often. Sometimes it's the last option if you do not make it work, but it should not be used, and NPM is the closest to web standard. In general, Fiori tooling is more complete, but community is more technically advanced, in my opinion. If you want to make a control, a library, which you really need in more advanced projects, then the Fiori tooling is not making it. So it's not only about the Fiori tooling, it's really more. And okay, Marian showed the auto reload, but of course, maybe on his MacBook it works very well. On my Windows, it's sometimes irritating me. One thing I sometimes notice is, for example, if you use the Fiori run command in Business Application Studio, it does not always work, but simply use UI5 serve. In the end, both statements execute the UI5 configuration, but it will, if you use UI5 serve, it will find the plugins from Fiori and execute those plugins. So in the end, it does the same thing. It's just a different command. Some try to occupy Mars. We are still trying to understand the UI5 tooling, UI5 CLI and the Fiori tooling. One question, Marian, if UI5 tooling changed to UI5 CLI, does that mean that the Fiori tooling also renamed to Fiori CLI?
Probably not.
Might be
because,
coming.
Like, if you look at the GitHub repo, there's so much more than just like terminal-based stuff. Like, there's now the new MCP server is under Fiori tooling as well. So I think that name is still appropriate. As for UI5, it is actually a CLI, so that name makes actually more sense. I can't remember what they actually wrote in the blog post, why they changed it, but if you think about it, CLI makes more sense as a name. It's just now they renamed it, and we always say UI5 tooling. Now we have to. So
yeah,
I try to
need to adapt
say
to it.
yes. Me too. I try to say UI5 CLI, aka UI5 tooling.
Any tips or tricks from your side?
Just try some things out. Like, go to the repo, see what is actually there, what you can do. There are so many like hidden gems there what you can actually use as an extension. So just try to explore and do to see what is actually possible with your tooling and with the UI5 CLI and all the open source extensions the community developed there. So it's really powerful.
Right. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Marian, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you.